Donald Trump let something slip about the war with Iran, and it caused a real shock among Americans. There is a journalistic term called a killer quote, meaning a devastating quote. It's the kind of quote a politician says and immediately realizes he's made a huge mistake, and that this quote will ultimately destroy him as a politician. But the train has already left the station, and the quote spreads through the media and becomes proverbial. That's exactly the kind of killer quote Donald Trump uttered this week. And today, Axios dedicated a separate article to it with the headline, "Trump's killer quote exposes his hopeless position on Iran and inflation." And Trump's quote goes like this: "I don't think about the financial situation of Americans, it's not important." That's how he commented on the deadlock in negotiations with Iran. And now, in this episode, we'll analyze the impact and consequences of this quote. I'm Pechiy. Let's discuss this together. But before we start, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this episode, leave any comment under this video, and subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, let's start right away with a quote from Donald Trump. A CNN journalist asks Donald Trump, "How much does the financial situation of Americans influence his decisions on Iran?" Trump answers as follows.
I don't think about the financial situation of Americans. I don't think about anyone. I think about one thing. We cannot allow Iran to have nuclear weapons. That's the only thing
I'm translating. I don't think about the financial situation of Americans. That's it. Period. And this quote instantly dominated the news cycle because Americans are suffering from rising inflation and gas prices due to the war with Iran. And their president says directly, "I don't care about your financial problems. I have my own war here. I'm not thinking about your financial situation." And as strange as it may sound, President Trump basically can't find a way to combine his desire to end the war with Iran on his own terms with the need to curb inflation and keep the stock market stable in a congressional election year. These turned out to be incompatible things, and this is the fundamental trap he got himself into. Let's figure out step by step how he ended up there. What did Trump really, let's be honest, what did Trump really mean when he said that infamous quote? Obviously, Donald Trump had no intention at all, of spitting in the face of Americans and telling them, "I don't care about your financial situation." Of course not. Apparently, Trump meant the following. Экономические опасения американцев. The concerns of Americans won't stop him from taking steps he considers necessary to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. So, this is a conversation about priorities, not about indifference to his own citizens. He basically makes it clear that yes, the price is high, but we will achieve our goal anyway. But the problem is that in November, congressional elections will be held in the United States. And this nuance definitely won't be lost in the promo videos that the Democrats will cut, and they'll do it instantly. Well, because the quote is just perfect. Trump and the quote, "I don't think about the financial situation of Americans." Now, the real economic pain behind that quote, oil is trading above $100 per barrel, and part of that is directly related to the blockade of the Hormuz Strait and the US war against Iran. And Reuters reports today that Brent is already above $108 per barrel. Every extra dollar in the price of oil has direct consequences for business, for freight transportation, for purchasing power, for inflation, and so on. Americans feel this every time they fill up their car. And when the president says he doesn't think about their finances, that's exactly how it sounds. I don't think about your financial situation, and no one listens to what is said after the comma. Absolutely no one. Now, the context of this quote today, May 14. Donald Trump said these words in Washington on the eve of his flight to Beijing, and today, already in Beijing, he is meeting with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping. And one of the main issues on the agenda is Iran. As is well known, Trump and Xi Jinping have reached an agreement that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open for the free flow of energy resources. This was a joint, and by the way, the first joint public position of the two leaders on Iran. And this is directly related to the economic pressure that Trump supposedly doesn't think about. And here Trump has an obvious dilemma. Essentially, Trump has three ways to pressure Iran: military, sanctions, and diplomatic. The military lever has already been used, but it led to a rise in oil prices and did not break Tehran. And although there is talk again now about a renewed war, it is already obvious that without a ground operation, Trump will achieve nothing. The second lever is sanctions, but they're already maxed out. There's nowhere else to go. Diplomatic, okay, there are negotiations, but they've reached a dead end. Iran refuses to abandon its nuclear program. The US is not ready to lift sanctions without that. Of course, there's also a fourth lever, that's China, and that's exactly why Trump is in Beijing right now. But China, doesn't come for free. Chinese sources familiar with the situation believe that the war with Iran has potentially strengthened Beijing's negotiating position, because the US needs China more than usual, and Beijing is taking advantage of that. The price for help with Iran, trade concessions, maybe even Taiwan, and definitely the lifting of some restrictions on microchips. And today, Xi Jinping directly told Donald Trump to his face, that if there are no concessions on Taiwan, the US and China could enter into an open war for which China is ready. But the US is clearly weakened after the war with Iran. And here the phrase, "I don't think about the financial situation of Americans," takes on a whole new dimension. Trump is going to Beijing to ask for help, and he will pay for this help with concessions. We won't find out exactly what kind of concessions right now. We'll know from the results. If Iran eases its stance next week, it means China pressured them. And that means Trump promised something. And in the end, this price will also fall on American taxpayers. One way or another. So the phrase, "I don't think about the financial situation of Americans," is much more accurate than it seems at first glance. Just not in the sense that Donald Trump himself meant. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's it for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.